Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webcast brought to you by the team at Briefing. That's the publication for the work and worlds of legal business leaders like yourselves who are looking to share and pick up practical insights for continuous improvement in smarter business management. I'm Richard Brent. I'm the head of content and the editor-in-chief of all of our publications here, which are now also brought to you by app, available for both Apple and Android devices, of course. So do head on over to your app store if you don't have our app already, and to find all the legal business management goodness. Regular monthly editions and many specials feature in-depth interviews, much like those that we're having today with business leaders, heading up all functions at the firm with all different responsibilities, opinion on the biggest business trends and the debates of the day, case studies on specific transformation projects, and market-leading research, such as our Briefing Frontiers series about the intersection of technology and wider law firm strategy. That was last published in February this year. We tend to cover every aspect of legal business management throughout the year, from business development practices to risk management, process improvement, to new initiatives around people management and engagement, and of course the energies that go into and the outcomes from efforts to innovate. So there really is something for everyone with a key responsibility at your firm. Now, today's conversation, you can see behind me, is headlined "The Platform for a More Collaborative and Secure Law Firm Culture." The arrival of hybrid working has rewritten some of the rules of engagement, it's fair to say, but in this world, timely and effective collaboration when it's most needed is probably more important than it ever has been. And technology choices that enable both flexibility for the individual and efficient teamwork together could really mark firms out at a time when that competition for talent is so especially fierce, and the offer of any additional time out, or perhaps at least away from monitoring your screen or your inbox, really can mean something. In our recent Frontiers research, which I mentioned earlier, collaboration change was the second most popular area for prioritizing IT spend in 2022. That's only just after doing the legal work itself faster. But after a top 2 place tie for the most pressing organizational challenges, number 1, retention of talent, number 2, investment in the right client-facing technology, the next most concerning issue for leaders like yourselves was optimizing the front-end technology experience with an eye on individual productivity. Moreover, 2/3 of those leaders felt that maximizing productivity was the business factor that was more likely to get the attention of the firm's most senior stakeholders for buy-in to strategic tech-based transformation than any other. So hopefully that means working smarter rather than just harder. But that's exactly what we're going to be getting into with my guests today, who are Anthony Stables, who is the Chief Information Officer at the law firm Forsters, Dawn Ingle, who is the IS Director at law firm Shoosmiths, and we also have Mike Creffield, who is Business Manager at NetDocuments, who are our partner for today's webcast. A quick reminder that as with all of our webcasts, this is being recorded, so do bear that in mind. It will later be distributed to the whole Briefing audience as well. And we have allotted time later on, as again we always do, for you to ask any questions that you may have that may be prompted by the conversation up to that point. Or indeed, if you'd like to share your own perspectives on any of the challenges that we're discussing, or indeed the challenges that you're experiencing in practice. We've got the Q&A here, of course, to ask these questions. Also, though, if you would like to come off mute to ask questions live, as it were, then you're more than welcome to do so. Just make yourself known, and we will bring you off mute and invite you to join the conversation. As I mentioned, this event is in partnership with the cloud-based document and content management specialists, NetDocuments, and Mike Creffield, who's here on the screen at the moment, will be joining me a little later to chew over what we hear. But first of all, I'm going to chat to Anthony Stables, who is Chief Information Officer, as I mentioned, at the law firm Forsters, about his current priorities and projects. So we're going to say goodbye to Dawn and Mike for now. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So as a starting point, I understand that over the last couple of years, you had a project to very much transform how content is managed within the firm, including documents, of course. I think that decision was made before, well, maybe not before the pandemic, but before the first lockdown in the UK anyway arrived. But I think you were implementing it over the course of 2020 and 2021. We can get into that a bit later, but can you tell me, first of all, sort of what was the main rationale for a change here? Why did you need to change how information at Forsters is managed?
Yeah, well, actually, the decision was made before I even joined the firm back in 2018. So our current practice management system had an attempt at a document management system within it. And one of the key things that, of course, you really need in a document management system is being able to search and find your documents. That was not an easy task in the previous system. So that the need to change our document management system was actually identified shortly before I joined the firm. But fortunately, I was involved in the end stage of selection for that. So that happened very early in 2018. I joined the firm on the 1st of May. We didn't really start the journey, though, for quite some time after that, because there were some more pressing fundamental issues that we needed to address in our technology and our technology function at the firm. But I'm pleased to say that we made very good progress with those very swift changes that really allowed us to take a long, hard look at what it was we wanted out of our next document management system, and start working with our partner Valata to get us moving on the NetDocuments experience, which started, I would say, in 2019, and we actually went live with our solution that we called, it was Project Apollo, because it wasn't just about implementing NetDocuments. It was also about looking at our templates, how we were working, how teams are working together across the firm, our strategic direction about where we wanted to go with control and governance of our documents, and also, of course, wanting a secure, reliable, and innovative platform to store them on. So that was really the genesis and into the implementation of NetDocuments here at Forsters. But it was very difficult doing it under lockdown, as you'd expect.
Imagine, yes, yeah. You mentioned at the start there that changing search in particular was sort of a key driver for it. Can you tell us a little bit about how these changes that you have introduced so far, or indeed the changes that are still to come under this umbrella of Project Apollo, how are they going to, or have they already transformed how people will actually, do their work? Sort of, can you give us some insight into the processes that have changed for the fee earner? I assume it's the earners mainly who will benefit.
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing, as you've already mentioned, is that people can actually find what it is they're looking for, which helps. So we have the background scanning of PDFs as well. So making image-based PDF searchable within NetDocuments, and if there was ever a win, that was straight off. Right, we've got a win there. We can now find what it is we're putting into the platform. But now, of course, having a cloud-based platform, we can access that from anywhere on any device. And that, of course, makes things much more highly available in terms of enabling us to move down our agile working framework that we have here at the firm, and aligning our technology with that. I think there is still more to go on our journey. So our scope for our initial implementation was limited to the content that was in our previous document management system. This financial year, we're about to kick off what we're calling part 2 of Apollo, and that's very much looking at the other areas where data has been historically stored at the firm, bringing those into NetDocuments, and also engaging with our business services functions and bringing them on the same journey that has been the case for our fee earning teams. Being able to get quick access to content has been imperative, and being able to serve our clients in a more efficient, more effective fashion is something that has really upped the game when it comes to document management. And we've got quite a lot in plan for not just part of Apollo Part 2, which is also looking at people's mailboxes and a bit more discipline around that, but also when it comes to how we are providing collaborative spaces for our clients to work alongside us. That's very much part of our next steps on the journey with NetDocuments and the rest of our cloud-based technology platforms that we're really starting to leverage, and that's a whole load of stuff that we're really looking forward to over the next 12, 18 months or so.
Thank you, Anthony. I think that collaborating spaces, online collaboration spaces, excuse me, that you're referring to there. But I know that you're also moving offices, aren't you, as well, next year? So one of the firms that has no doubt been thinking about what that looks like very carefully in light of all the changes over the last couple of years. I wonder to what extent has that sort of dovetailed with your decision making around Project Apollo? Have you had to consider that technology investment in light of what you want to do with that space, and obviously the main theme of today, how people are going to collaborate in future?
Yes, absolutely. So where there still remains paper records, we are of course having to digitalize those. What we don't want to be doing is, as we are looking to move we don't want to be carting a whole load of paper around the place. So digitalization of previously paper-based activities needs to happen, and that's right away across the firm. Of course, on the fee earning side, we've already done a heck of a lot of that. Big use of digital signatures, for example, that most people will be using. And really, when it comes to looking at how we design a new environment for people to work in, making sure that the office is a destination. We've already implemented agile working in our current offices with a desk booking system, and being able to everybody has a laptop, so you can go and use a docking station wherever and work from any desk in any of our offices. But really encouraging people to come into the office. Not that we really have to try too hard at Forsters. We've got an incredibly collaborative culture, and people have been itching to get back into the office right away across the firm since lockdown lifted. Of course, that's been great for trainees who do a lot of sort of learning by osmosis about just being close to people and understanding how offices work and everything else that goes along with that. So really being able to offer an experience in the office that you can't get at home. And what does that mean? Well, that means, we have to be really flexible with the technology. We need to make sure that, there aren't any Wi-Fi black spots or anything like that, that people can take their laptop anywhere and work effectively. from anywhere, but in the fashion that they want to, whether that's just having a space where, a table where they can, as we're calling a touchdown space, where you could just sit and do something maybe while you're just having a coffee or having a quick chat with someone, through to a full-on board meeting with video conferencing and everything that runs along with that. And the art, of course, of making everything as easy to use as possible. And yeah, really forming something, offering something that you can't get at home.
And on that, of being as easy to use as possible, what's your estimation of the extent to which Project Follow, the change in document management, what's underlying it? You know, how much has that changed the game for you know, what you can do with agile working, how efficient you can make it? It's actually hybrid working now.
Yeah, well, it's really allowed us to do. You know, we're now on a platform that integrates with our other cloud solutions. And we're on a platform that allows us to take the steps that we want to into a more collaborative environment. We've got a platform that we can integrate into other systems and develop around, in order to provide new services both to our staff and to our clients. And you know, we've got pre-COVID collaboration tools for kind of Outlook, Intranet, IQ, and a bit of DocuSign. During COVID, you know, like I said, we've introduced NetDocuments. We've got Teams, we've got Zoom, we've got SharePoint in its infancy here at the firm. But coming out of the pandemic, and as we look to the future of what our office space looks like, as to how we're serving our clients, and what our clients are demanding of us, and how we support our people to grow and develop. You know, we've invested in a new head of knowledge here at the firm, who's coordinating the collaboration of knowledge services across our different areas. You know, we are looking to open up Microsoft Teams for client collaboration on Teams. We're really looking to leverage the services we already get from Microsoft implementation of moving our intranet, and looking at things like Viva Connect to really push news announcements and relevant content to people at their convenience, so that they can consume things on the device that they want at the time that they want, and know that that is content that is relevant to them. You know, it's tagged with the right information. It's not, you're not going to get a corporate lawyer who ends up getting a whole load of stuff about some new will information. You know, getting through with Microsoft OneDrive that we're starting to leverage too, and also we're beginning our journey to review our practice management system. And that, of course, you know, I always try and liken changing a practice management system to trying to change out somebody's spine when doing a 100-meter sprint. You know, you're taking out the core of what swapping out the core of what the business is doing whilst it's still running. So, you know, that's a huge project that we've got coming up that's going to touch every single area of the firm, and one that we, as we go and select technology, need to ensure that that too is going to key into all of the investment that we've already made, and be able to bring efficiencies of working through right away across the firm, whether that's ease of information for our fee earning teams and be able to get access to stuff quicker in one place, also improving our back-end processes, you know, right away across the firm with a new practice management system. So it's a key project that we won't get done in the next 12 months, that's for sure, but we're starting that journey.
So a lot of change, lots of new options for communicating, collaborating, lots of opportunity. But are there also particular challenges with sort of the idea of freeing people to work even more flexibly than they did in the past, from your perspective as IT leader?
Yeah,
what are the risks?
Yeah, so I think, well, firstly, when you introduce anything new into IT, you've got to get to grips with it yourself. And really making sure that we're using the technology that we expect the rest of the people in the firm to be using, getting to grips with that and being experts in that first. Really ensuring that all the services that we're providing have got the right supporting SLAs and really good technology base underneath it, that they are secure, that they're compliant with standards, and we implement things to best practice, such that should we need to change them or integrate with them at another stage, that we're in a good place to do that. And having a really good framework, particularly around security and maintenance, and good policies around that is really key to us ensuring that we can move with agility and flexibility as we need to. I think delivering training. We started on a journey of delivering training via small video sound bites back in 2019. And that put us in good stead when it came to 2020, 2021, and we already had a platform there and a process that we had to produce training videos. Producing the videos is one thing, getting people to watch them is something completely different. And it's one of the things where we live in an environment where the consumers of our technology are primarily lawyers of time poor. So making time to understand technology, to really get under the skin of what these new tools can give you, it's a very difficult balance for people who are busy doing their day job, and that's something that I think is a struggle in every firm, so in order to tackle that, we've been able, especially now that people are coming back to the office, to take more of an omni-channel approach, where not only can you view a video on any device from anywhere at any time, but also we have scheduled online training, we have scheduled in-class, in-person training, and we have one-to-one training as well that we'll do both online and in person. But it's really, really important that everybody understands the capabilities of what these things can do for them. And then also, it's not just about training, but also supporting these services once they're implemented. We've certainly found that when we've had projects go live, what we've had is a Teams channel that's been dedicated to that particular project, and anybody who's got a query will post something on that channel, and our trainers and other IT staff and other champions that we've employed across the firm are able to input into that and really help people adopt the technology. I think just dealing with the nightmare of the internet and home Wi-Fi and broadband has put, well, I've certainly got more grey hairs than I did have 2 years ago, put it that way. But expectations and expectation setting is key as well, because you've got one superb, hopefully, environment at work. Hopefully you've got a good environment at home that you can work in, and then you've got multiple environments that you're going to pass through on your journey to and from work and at different sites, and being able to set expectations and processes with people about what you should expect things to be like when you're on the move. You shouldn't expect the exact same response when you're on a train that you would get sitting on a 200 meg internet connection at home. You know, things are going to be slower. And if you're viewing things on a small screen, it's not going to be the same experience as it would be on a larger screen. And that may mean that the formatting is different, and it may mean that actually, if you're browsing some website, you can't even see the information that you expected to because of the formatting. And I think I've probably already mentioned about policies and best practice, but really when it comes to security, about having that really good grounding there so that you're able to train everyone, raise awareness around security, and be in a good place such that as people move through those environments, they're aware of how they should be operating and responding according to our security guidelines is crucial too.
On the point you made, a final one for you, just for now anyway, you're going to come back a bit later, but on the point you make about respect for consideration of people's time, one of the things that came through in this year's research very strongly was the challenge of thinking about people management through the prism of well-being. And I just wondered, from the IT director's seat, how important is it for you to think about ways in which you make, you know, people's lives happier, I suppose, easier through the technology choices that are available to them? Do you see things through that lens?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly important for us as a firm when we're talking about the well-being of not just our the people who work at the firm, but the people who interact with the firm. And you know, we might have whiz-bang technology, but if if people's well-being isn't great, then you know that all just falls towards the wayside. So it's, you know, it's really key part of our core values as a firm. We've got 4 very clear values. We collaborate for excellence. We're driven by what really matters. We support every person to achieve, and we take happiness seriously. And those last 2 about supporting everyone to achieve and taking happiness seriously are really key to our well-being and what we do as a firm. And you know, when you've got responsibility for IT, what you're delivering to people's desktops is what they're using for a large proportion of their day. And so if that technology isn't working, then you are going to be having a negative impact on people's well-being. But it's not just about negative or neutral impact, it's also about being able to have a positive impact. And so being able to let people know that you've been using your computer for 2 hours, you should really take a break by now. Being able to provide services, we collaborate really well with our HR team, and we've got online systems that really add to our employee well-being. You know, we've got initiatives where we use the reward gateway, which gives you vouchers and money off things, but we also have what we call Connect Plus, which allows us to send e-cards inside the firm to congratulate, whether it's congratulations or thank you very much or well done on this. You know, it's especially good when you are working in an agile fashion and you don't necessarily get to see that person face to face to shake their hand and say, brilliant, well done, you did that fantastically, and having that type of initiative there as well. And then we've got access to what we call our Wellbeing Plus, which will have sort of money saving tips, workouts available on video. We do many in the office, mindfulness tips, and other videos that can really support well-being. You know, as a firm, we have a well-being quarterly well-being newsletter. We take part in the Mind well-being index, and you know, we've got a really good program of education around well-being issues. I'm thinking particularly around events we've had for grief, resilience, personal resilience, cancer, and menopause, a variety of topics to support everyone. And as being a technology leader, the more that we can do, the more that I can do to facilitate those messages getting across, whether it's online, on video, through an intranet, through email, whatever I can do to really help that is absolutely key to the well-being and onwards to the productivity and the success of us as a firm. That's kept in mind in a similar way to our ESG initiatives across the firm. So yeah, really important.
Thank you, really, for sharing so much insight, so much detail there about what you're up to. That's great. I have had a question through for you, but I'm going to save it if that's all right for the section at the end, and I'm going to invite Dawn on now to have a chat. Dawn Ingle, who is IS Director at Shoosmiths, and we'll speak to Anthony again a bit later. Hello, Dawn.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Now you, of course, Anthony's planning an office move, in the final phase of planning an office move. You, Shoosmiths moved or opened its new office in the pandemic. And so it'd be interesting to hear from you a little as to how hybrid working has panned out, and what's on your radar in terms of making it more collaborative or effective. One of the things that's been raised repeatedly is the challenge of capturing that sort of water cooler conversation through the ways that we've been working over the last couple of years. I just wonder what's your take on that? Is that something that you've had to find new ways of facilitating when people aren't necessarily sharing the same space? Because I understand that's one of the key challenges and potentially risks.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. We've introduced Teams during the pandemic, like probably most people on the call, or something equivalent. So yeah, we use Teams for some of that, and we open channels to allow people to talk. And we're in the process of moving our telephony into Teams as well. So Teams has become the tool of choice for that. It probably doesn't still get away from the fact that the water cooler conversations, because it's very easy to hide anything you want while you're on a Teams meeting. So I don't think anything gets away from face to face, and I think it's good that people are getting back to offices and talking, and you're able to see people and understand how they are really. You just talked about well-being. I think that's really important. But yeah, Teams is really the thing that we've introduced to help with that collaboration.
You don't have a strict new policy, do you, for hybrid working? It's very much down to individual.
Yeah, we've introduced a new policy, but that policy is that you can do whatever is needed for your role. Right. So that is different by team. Some teams are probably not in at all, or very rarely. Other teams are potentially in 2 or 3 times a week. There is definitely more encouragement to try and get people in, so we can have those conversations, have one-to-ones in person, have team meetings in person, and get people back into the office to do some of that water cooler stuff. But no, our policy is very, we went very early with our policy, and it's very much you do what you need to do for the role that you do.
And in the context of that or otherwise, what challenges do you see around productivity? How productively people are able to work. And I mentioned in my introduction this idea of working smarter, not necessarily harder. Lots of firms said that once we were in lockdown, productivity went through the roof. But is that actually just people working longer hours? What's your view on that?
So I think we've definitely seen people working longer hours, and I think it's very hard to find that end point when you're working at home. I know myself, tea gets later and later, whereas if I'm in the office and I've got to get in the car, I'll actually, get up and leave, and it breaks that rhythm. So definitely people are working longer, but I think we're now starting to see a bit more of that burnout. You can't work that hard and that long for a sustained period of time. There are things that we're trying to encourage. So we're trying to encourage people to take, perhaps get some fresh air at lunchtime, or definitely take that hour at lunchtime or half an hour, whatever it is, but just take that break. We have looked at shortening meetings. So when you put a meeting in the diary for half an hour, it automatically takes off 5 minutes at the end. But all that does is people ignore it, so it doesn't always work. But yeah, it's really hard to find that break, and using IT to try and force people to take a break actually sort of counterproductive, because we want them to move away from their screens rather than spend more time on their screens.
Right.
So we're very much trying to encourage people just to take the time. But yeah, I think we're starting now to see a lot more of that burnout as people have worked those longer hours. People are logging on earlier, logging off later. But so productivity has gone through the roof. Whether it's sustainable, we wait and see.
But do you think that technology choices, your technology direction, can make a difference to helping people to address, for example, work-life balance? Is that something that you make technology decisions with an eye on?
Yeah, we're very much doing a lot of what Anthony talked about, actually. We're trying to make everything available anytime, anywhere, any connection. So that's really important to us, so that people can do learnings, if they're walking around the park, or they can, log on from a coffee shop, or whatever it is their want. And that is really important to Shoosmiths and how we move forward. So whatever we look at, any software we look at now, we've always got an eye on how that's going to work in our very much hybrid environment.
About the new office space, have you made decisions around what is needed there, either evolving your technology setup or introducing new things, as well as Microsoft Teams, of course, in order to make a success of that space?
Yeah, so the office space was actually planned before COVID, so we've had to make some adaptations with COVID coming in. Shoosmiths has been a hybrid working environment for a long time. Our Reading office was our first hybrid office, and that's probably 6 or 7 years ago, perhaps 5 or 6 years ago. So so we were already on the hybrid journey. I've been here 9 years, and there's never been no one's ever had an office in the time I've been here, so we were already on that path. We have made, so the London office is an amazing space, but we've had to adapt it since we've been back to deal with video conferencing, so the hybrid video conferencing, and we are in the process now of piloting between this office and our Solent office some new equipment to help with that, because at the moment in some of our offices, if 3 of us are in the office and 2 are at home, then we all have to log on from our desks, which isn't ideal. So yeah, so we're starting to trial that at the moment, and that will play into some of our office moves that we've got coming up later on in the year in Birmingham and Edinburgh.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm going to bring the others back now at this point, because that leads us in quite nicely to the question that has already been submitted. If anyone else has any questions about what they've heard so far, of course, as I mentioned, please do put them into the Q&A, and I will put them onto the panel. So the question is from Adam Dedzinski. Thank you, Adam. Does anybody have any tips on the delivery of perhaps of smooth hybrid training? Might go back to Anthony for that first, if that's right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think
you certainly touched on that in one of your answers. Yeah. Yeah.
I think first of all, it all starts way before the training event. So really setting expectations about how you expect people to behave, whether you expect their camera to be on, whether you expect them to be on mute throughout, or when you expect to ask and answer questions of people, and really kind of framing what it is you're going to be doing. Because when you're doing in person and over the internet, it's very, very difficult to manage two audiences at the same time. So I would say actually probably my top tip is don't do it hybrid. That would certainly be the top tip. But in the event that you can't avoid doing it hybrid, set those expectations, and try and find ways of bringing the online audience into the room. And often that can be just ensuring that you're regularly going out to those who are online and asking them to contribute in order to really sort of bring them into the room. But those would be my top tip. Don't do hybrid if you can avoid it.
And Dawn, have you got a similarly flexible approach to how people are trained as to the general sort of expectations for where they are, or do you agree with Anthony that you need one or the other?
Yeah, I agree with Anthony. I don't think hybrid is hard. Hybrid is hard in meeting sense. So doing it from a training perspective is even harder. Most of our training, like probably everyone else's, has moved to online now and is in video format or live, but in a virtual room. We have done some in-person training, and there is definitely more demand for in-person training. But we will only do your either in-person or your video. We don't at the moment offer a hybrid approach from an IT training perspective.
I would say, Richard, that what we've seen from our clients is a real mix. Actually, what they tend to like is to offer all of the above. So there'll be options for in-person training. There'll be options for remote training. And they'll also, we've had instances where they'll do their own firm wiki to ask questions. Also, another good method is to have a set time. So there's an hour on a Thursday morning where IT staff, IT trainers will just sit on a Zoom session, sit on a team session, and just be ready to take calls, because other people like to own the technology, play with the technology themselves, and then ask the questions. So there's a real mix, all of the above, really. James asked an interesting question though about.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, you're going to come on to that. So I think that's.
We'll definitely get. Yeah, we'll definitely get through them. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I was going to come to you actually, but we'll come back to you again in a bit. So yes, James Mead has asked, it's specifically for you, Anthony, but it may apply to everyone. Do you attempt to measure the adoption of the various IT investments that the firm makes to help, for example, to identify and focus L&D efforts in specific areas?
Yes, we try.
And if so, how?
I wouldn't say we're always successful.
Right.
I think because sometimes, and that really comes down to when you're first gathering the requirements and doing the business analysis up front, are you measuring what you're doing well enough to be able to then come back after the project and measure that exact same thing, to be able to really say, how has this changed? So really accurate measurement really starts right at the start of the project, and if you don't do anything like that, then you don't stand a chance of attempting to accurately do anything at the end. So, but I would say is the anecdotal feedback is really important. How people have perceived and what their experience has been throughout the life of the project and subsequent to it. So we have a really good lessons learned process that we do at the end of projects to really pick up on that information. Personally, I think we can do better at the start when it comes to measuring those activities. I think, I'm not going to claim that we're perfect, that's for sure. There's certainly room for improvement. But yeah, being able, and also ensuring that when you're putting new technology in, that you are able to measure what's going on that new technology. So before we had Teams for our telephony, it was really hard for us to understand how many calls were being made. who was calling who, you know, from where to where, etc., etc. Now that's much easier. We've got tools that will allow us to do that. So everything, all the new technology that we're putting in, we make sure that we're able to measure, and in NetDocuments is a prime example of that. So before we had absolutely no idea how many times documents were open, closed, how many versions, where people were doing that from, how many different people were looking at those documents. Now we have absolutely all of that information, and I can tell you, you know, within a couple of minutes, how many people have accessed which documents from where, from which country, and how they've done that, etc. Because we've made sure that the systems that we invest in have got tools that allow us to do analysis. So yeah, start at the beginning.
That harps back to what Dawn said actually about productivity and the hours working changes. I think I've mentioned this before on one of the previous sessions that we've done, Richard, but yeah, it was very clear. So over the last 2 years, we've seen those working patterns change immensely, because it's just one platform for NetDocuments. There's only one version of our software, so all 4,000 clients are using exactly the same. We can see the times they log on, times they log off, which sections of the platform that they're using. So harps to what Anthony says, that, you know, we've got all of that across hundreds of thousands of users, and it's really interesting to see that weekend work has massively shifted. You know, that the time, early mornings, late at night, people accessing, whereas pre-pandemic it was really 9 to 5, the majority, but now there's peaks all over the place because of hybrid working, because of the changes that we've seen, and we, you know, it's really evident, certainly looking at the stats on our platform, exactly that.
Mike, that sort of drills down into the individual productivity point, of course, but is it the same for, you know, identifying patterns of collaboration as well? So that, you know, you can help firms to optimize their collaboration strategies or processes.
Well, we have seen, I mean, teams, you know, we hear this mentioned on pretty much every talk that we go to, every law firm's talking about teams, and we've heard it today. Yeah, there was this rush to put out teams for everyone, and now everyone's coming back and saying, well, we need to lock this down. You know, we don't want just everyone opening a channel for this, that, and everything else. It needs to still reside in the Matter workspace somehow. And that's exactly what we do with our team's integration with Microsoft. We've been a Microsoft collaboration partner since 2016. So the integration between NetDocuments and Teams is incredibly strong. In fact, across all of the Microsoft stack. So yeah, that's what we're seeing, and we can monitor and we can record that, make it secure.
Thank you. I want to try and get through a few of the questions that have been submitted here in the final 10 minutes. But if we don't get through all of them, we'll try to get them answered for you. Anthony, most of them are for you, I'm afraid. So you might have to do most of the talking. Anthony, is NetDocuments integrated with your case management system? Is the first point.
No.
What's the
No, it's not.
if you don't mind telling us.
very short answer. No. Our case management, practice management system is quite old, and we're looking to change it. We're starting out on that journey at the moment, reviewing what else is out there. But it is absolutely key as we move forward that we have got a case/practice management system that integrates completely with our document management system in NetDocuments, and we are able to get back to a world that we did have here, which is presenting the document management system alongside the case management, practice management. For, you know, it's much more efficient. Not switching between two different systems to get different pieces of information. We can start to draw links between documents and matters, and really, and financials, and really understand a lot more about how our practice is working at a fundamental level with a new practice management system, and sorry to harp back to it, but getting something where we know that we're going to have access to the audit logs of everything that goes on, so that we can go through and see how that tool is being used and where we can make improvements is going to be key to that. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
And then a couple of, what's your experience been like of using SharePoint, which I think you mentioned once already, and I don't know if you mentioned this, but using Teams calling in Citrix as well.
Okay. Well, I'll tackle SharePoint first. I've been using SharePoint since before it was SharePoint, so back in 2001. So yeah, got a lot of SharePoint experience. Do not enter into the world of SharePoint lightly. If you've got Teams, you've already got SharePoint, because it's the back end of it. If you've got OneDrive, you've already got SharePoint. SharePoint, if left ungoverned and unregulated, will give you an absolute living nightmare. So governance is really, really key to your implementation of SharePoint. Think very hard about what you're going to use it for. If you're going, we have NetDocuments as our permanent system of record, and when it comes to collaboration, online collaboration with clients, we are using SharePoint as an intermediary between our system of record in NetDocuments and our clients, because we're able to bring through other information into SharePoint that's relevant to the client experience. So yeah, I've forgotten exactly what the SharePoint question was now. Sorry, but yeah.
To reflect on your experience, really, which I think you have done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got lots of it. Citrix, Teams telephony over Citrix. Make sure you're running the right version of Teams. There's two versions. There's a Citrix specific version. As long as you're using that and you've got beefy enough servers, works fine. I don't know if Dawn may have a different experience.
No, exactly the same for the Teams in Citrix. We tried to do native Teams in Citrix, and it was a disaster. But going back to the SharePoint question, we use SharePoint as our system of records, and it integrates with our case management system. And Anthony's right, it takes a lot of governance, but actually it does the job.
And then back to the question of training. It's a question from Maggie Shen, which I think would apply to both of you. Do you have a view on whether IT training is generally better done in-house or outsourced to somebody, get somebody else involved in delivering it for you?
We do ours in-house. We have a team that does it in-house. We haven't dipped our toe into outsourcing it, although we are about to dip our toe into doing security training using a third party. So yeah, I think we are changing how we do our training. We're trying to make it shorter, sharper, as opposed to someone sitting in front of a video for even half an hour, let alone an hour, and trying to make it more interactive. But yeah, we haven't dipped our toe yet into the third party.
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on what you mean by outsourcing, doesn't it? If outsourcing is just someone employed by somebody else, then essentially it doesn't have to be any difference as long as they work really closely with your organisation. If by outsourcing you mean, are you going to consume training that's been created elsewhere for you, then sometimes that can be advantageous if it's a very generic subject. But if it's something that's quite specific to your firm, then generally in-house creation is going to be much better.
Thank you very much, everybody. Got a few minutes left. I'm just going to throw a few more questions out myself. We haven't actually talked about security in a lot of detail, but certainly back when we were covering the sector during the first lockdown, there was a lot of talk around the sort of challenge of balancing the need for increased productivity with the tight security, tight, robust enough security when the threat landscape is evolving. I just wonder what things look like now, sort of 2 years down the track. Is that still something that is quite hard to manage, or with your new, with your new structure that's going in, Anthony, do you feel that you're on top of that?
Yeah, we're very much on top of it. I think one of the things that has come to the fore in the last few months, since when was it, February, is very much around geofencing and ensuring that we don't have anyone from Russia, Belarus, or Ukraine attempting to access from anywhere. That's something that we're able to implement across all of our online services. Security is always changing. You can't afford to relax when it comes to the threat environment there, and we're very fortunate to have excellent third parties who provide us with lots of detailed information, as well as really good security services for us. We're very confident in the security software that we use. We use industry-leading software right away across our security framework. So we're confident in that. We have a lot of confidence in that, but you can't afford to relax.
Questions come in. Anthony, have you built trust with staff around measurement and tracking of their activity? Is that something that you need to do? How do you ensure the measurements sort of enhance well-being, for example, rather than erode trust or engagement? That's from our very own Josh Adcock, who I know you've spoken to before.
Yeah, I think first of all, we don't track everything everybody does.
Right.
So,
Okay.
we don't have the cameras on all the time or anything like that. So
Yeah.
we don't track people around the building or anything like that. So really, it's about what we're tracking is how people are using the services that we provide, and we're doing it thematically. We're not doing it on an individual basis. So across all of our user base, we do drill down into departments, but we're not looking at specific individuals. And how do we build trust? Well, just explaining to people that we have got access to all this information. I think one of the first presentations I did when I joined the firm. So I just said to people, don't forget anything that you type in your computer is there permanently. We've got a record. Doesn't matter if you delete it, we've got it. So be very careful and use use IT systems for what they're for, but also it's with the firm and everyone needs to have the assurance that security is there, and to prevent actions like bullying and things like that. So we do, we have got all our Teams chat logged and everything that goes along with that to give protection. It's about ensuring that people know that, and we're doing it for everybody's good. It's not something that is used to go and beat people up with, but it's really about the analytics off the back of the audit trail, so that we can identify areas that we want to look at, as opposed to Big Brother.
Thank you, everybody. We are out of time. We have got a couple more questions here, which I will try to get answered for the people who have asked them. But I'd like to thank very much for a very interactive session today. Anthony Stables at Forsters, Dawn Ingle at Shoosmiths, and Mike Creffield, of course, as a partner for this morning's session at NetDocuments. Thank you all very much, and thank you all for watching, and hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you.